How's it going, everybody? In this video, I'm going to be giving an important update in the Rhode v. Becerra case, also known as California's Ammo Day case. So let's talk about this. But real quick before we jump into this video, if you think that all of California's laws regulating ammunition violate the Second Amendment, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. Also, I want to give a shout out to one of the new sponsors of the channel, and that is Customs. Thorson has become one of those trusted companies in the state of California for California firearms consumers like me and you. One of the important things to note about Thorson is, although they have various California compliant features that they offer on their websites, they're also very big on California advocacy, and they're also very active in supporting cases which will ultimately would eliminate the California assault weapons language and ultimately make their products kind of irrelevant in the state of California. But to them, they don't care about that. They focus more on Second Amendment advocacy. And so that's one of the really neat things about Thorson. So if you'd be interested in looking into Thorson and their products, I'll put a link down the details section in the comment section. Also, I want to thank another sponsor of the channel, that is Got Your Six. For just $2.99 a month, you get access to a lot of amazing things on their app. This includes up-to-date local, state, and national legislative information. And you have the ability to create small and large groups, and you can click this button called Initiate Freedom if your Second Amendment rights are ever violated through something like a red flag law, and what is an Amber Alert for firearms owners goes out to those members of your group. So if you're interested in Got Your Six, I'll also put a link down to them in the details section. So Rhode v. Becerra, this is one of those very important cases stemming out of the state of California and has now made its way up to the Ninth Circuit. If you're not familiar with what Rhode v. Becerra deals with, Rhode v. Becerra is a challenge by various plaintiffs to California's structure regulating ammunition sales, essentially requiring that all ammunition sales go through an FFL. You can't ship directly to an individual's household, that there is an eligibility check for ammunition purchases, which eligibility checks really is like parsed down form of background checks for ammunition purchases. So Rhode v. Becerra was originally before the St. Benitez himself in the Southern District of California, and St. Benitez issued a motion for preliminary injunction in our favor, which put a halt on California's application of the eligibility check, the importation laws, the shipping laws, all of that stuff. And it's called Ammo Day because essentially that motion for preliminary injunction and the granting of that preliminary injunction only lasted for a single day. Immediately, the AG's office sought a stay, an emergency stay from the Ninth Circuit, which was granted, and it was actually granted late at night and pretty much put a halt on that preliminary injunction. And ultimately, the Ninth Circuit took up this case, and we are waiting for a three-judge panel hearing in Rhode v. Becerra. The three-judge panel hearing is currently set for November 9th, 2020. So coming up very soon, just next week, we are going to have a three-judge panel hearing on this issue. One of the things we were waiting for a long time was what exactly is the makeup, or who are the individuals going to be on the three-judge panel, and we actually got that information. The three-judge panel is going to be made up of Judge Parker Jr., who is an actual circuit court judge out of the Second Circuit, and we're going to talk a little bit about him later, Judge Whitford, and Judge Bumate. So let's talk about these three judges, and there's been some misinformation that's kind of been going on about these judges, so let me talk about these real quick. So first and foremost, I just want to get Bumate out of the way. If you watched the Rhode v. Becerra oral arguments before the three-judge panel, you're probably familiar with Judge Bumate. He was on that three-judge panel as well. And if you watch those arguments, he is very Second Amendment friendly, and he actually had a lot of very critical questions that he asked to the AG's office, to the state of California representative. Judge Bumate is a Trump appointee, so I think we can guess where he's leaning, especially coming off of Rhode v. Becerra and the questions that he was asking, and him being very critical of the state of California, and also some of the facial expressions that he had during those oral arguments. I think it's safe to say that Judge Bumate is probably leaning in our way. Judge Whitford was appointed by Obama. Now, I don't know a whole lot about him, so my assumption is he's probably just going to vote kind of based on his political ideologies. I mean, he was an Obama appointee, so I guess we can assume that maybe he would vote according to party lines, but we never really know that. Sometimes these judges do not go according to party lines, and actually sometimes they tend to be more neutral and ask very critical information questions, and can be inquisitive. We saw that recently also in the Rhode v. Becerra cases that were heard by the three-judge panel. So it's not a foregone conclusion that Whitford is going to vote according to party lines. As of that, with Bumate and Whitford, we are guessing it's at least 1-1. One in our favor by Bumate. I think that's very clear. And then I'm going to assume Whitford is going to be one in the side of the state of California. So really this all comes down to Judge Parker, and he is a visiting judge out of the Second Circuit. And if you're not familiar with the Second Circuit, that is the circuit that deals with New York and those areas. So Judge Barrington Parker Jr. sits in the Second Circuit, but he is actually a Bush appointee. And there's actually some interesting things with Judge Parker. He was actually originally put into the Southern District of New York, I believe is what it was, by Clinton, but was later elevated to the Second Circuit by Bush. Now, there was some initial, I think, controversy where Bush initially appointed him. His appointment was denied. Then Bush reappointed him, and then he was unanimously granted the nomination and was appointed to the Second Circuit, and I think it was a vote of 100-0. And this was actually coming off the heels of 9/11. And so when you look at Judge Parker Jr., it's kind of iffy in some people's eyes whether or not he's going to be pro-Second Amendment or not pro-Second Amendment. He was a Bush appointee, but it also kind of seemed bipartisan because he was also appointed to the Southern District of New York by Clinton. So he's also kind of a Clinton appointee, but for the purposes of his actual appointment to the Second Circuit, that was done by Bush. I also wanted to note something as far as Judge Parker. When I did some research, he appears to actually be a member of the Federalist Society. Now, if you're not familiar with the Federalist Society is, essentially it is an organization that seeks judicial reform, advocates for specific things, and it's comprised of mainly conservative and libertarians. And actually looking at the Federalist Society page, Judge Barrington actually served as a moderator for the Federalist Society on 4 or 5 occasions. So it seems like he is a pretty staunch member of the Federalist Society. Recently, with the confirmation hearings of Supreme Court Justice now Amy Coney Barrett, her involvement with the Federalist Society was brought up quite a few times. And that is because members of the Federalist Society, like I mentioned, they typically are conservatives or libertarians. Those types of judges or those types of attorneys that are in the Federalist Society tend to have a specific type of lean. And that is a lean towards originalists, textualists sometimes. And they tend to have specific ideologies because that is why they're in the Federalist Society. And I'm just going to guess, based on what I could find his involvement with the Federalist Society, I think he's probably leaning more towards the 2A friendly realm than a lot of people are giving him credit for. Also, one more interesting thing I wanted to note is that the AG's representative is going to be the same individual who argued the Rhode v. Becerra decision in front of the 3-judge panel in the 9th Circuit. And also the Michelle and Associates representative who's going to represent our side is also the same individual. So these are the individuals who already argued in the Rhode v. Becerra case before the 9th Circuit and actually argued before Judge Bumate also, because Judge Bumate was on the Rhode v. Becerra panel as well. And when I look at these two individuals, the AG's representative, a lot of people were critical of him, which I was very critical of him as well. I don't think he did a very good job in the Rhode v. Becerra case. So I hope that he also doesn't take this one very serious and doesn't do a good job here in Rhode v. Becerra. And I think in Rhode v. Becerra, our representative did a good enough job. He seemed prepared. He addressed a lot of the court's questions. But also there, the 3-judge panel was very favorable to him, to our position. And so we don't really know if that's going to be the case here in this case. So if you have any questions, go ahead and comment down below and I'll try to answer the best of my ability. Also, if you like this video and you'd like to support the channel, one of the best ways to do that is like, comment, and subscribing. And make sure you hit that notification bell because that helps the channel analytics, helps us spread the word about the Second Amendment, also helps spread the word about critical information like this that's going on in the state of California. Also want to thank another major supporter of the channel, and that is USCCA. USCCA provides legal protection for patriots like me and you, especially if you have CCW permits and you ever find yourself in a defensive shooting. USCCA provides you legal protection. So if you're interested in this, I'll go ahead and put a link down in the description section to USCCA. So as always, thanks you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and never forget this nation was built by armed scholars, and this nation will be maintained by armed scholars.